Well, welcome to the 700 Club. The Middle East is entering a critical moment as the United States and Iran trade sharp rhetoric. U.S. forces in the region are poised to strike, and President Trump said time is running out.
Overnight in Brooklyn, a car repeatedly rammed into the doors of a synagogue. This attack comes as a new report reveals a surge in global anti-Semitism. Middle East correspondent Joshua Swanson reports from Jerusalem.
There are reports this morning that Iran's failure to respond to President Trump's calls to negotiate on limiting its nuclear weapons and ballistic missile program has the president considering a military strike to create conditions for regime change in Iran. In a Truth Social post Wednesday, Trump said a massive armada is headed to Iran, calling on Tehran to negotiate immediately. He urged Iran to come to the table and agree to no nuclear weapons. Trump also issued a stark warning, saying if Iran does not make a deal, the next strike would be far worse than Operation Midnight Hammer, last year's attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. The Iranians reportedly rejected those conditions, responding with hostile rhetoric. Iran's foreign minister responded on social media, saying Iranian forces are prepared to immediately and powerfully respond. A senior advisor to Iran's supreme leader warned that any U.S. military move would be met with an immediate and unprecedented response, including strikes on Tel Aviv. Hezbollah's leader says the group is also preparing to retaliate in the event of a U.S.-Israel attack on Iran.
When Trump or anyone else threatens to kill the leader, that means he's threatening tens of millions. We are committed to carrying out all the measures and preparations to confront this threat.
In Israel, the last hostage held in Gaza has now been laid to rest, and the clock in Tel Aviv's hostage square has been turned off. The sister of hostage Ron Gavili described what the moment meant to her family.
On October 7th, the clock didn't stop. Our clock stopped. Ronnie went out, fought, saved, kidnapped, and returned. And now we can really stop this clock for a moment, and we can move forward.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke at Ron Gavili's funeral, saying the return of the last hostage marks a transition in Israel's mission.
We achieved what we had prepared for 843 days, to bring all our brothers and sisters home. We're also committed to our other goals, disarming Hamas, demilitarizing the Gaza Strip, and we will achieve this as well.
A new report from Israel's Ministry of Diaspora Affairs warns of a sharp rise in anti-Semitism, recording 815 severe incidents in 2025, including the murder of 21 Jews, up from just one in 2024. The highest numbers were in the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Australia, and Canada. That growing threat may have been seen last night in New York, where authorities are investigating a possible hate crime after a man repeatedly rammed his car into the Chabad Lubavitch World Headquarters while people were gathered for prayer. Police say it is too early to determine motive, but Mayor Mamdani said the city is taking the threat seriously.
Any threat to a Jewish institution or place of worship must be taken seriously. Anti-Semitism has no place in our city.
Joshua Swanson, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, please be in prayer for the situation in the Middle East. As the rhetoric ramps up, are we looking at war, and are we looking at war with Iran? The regime needs to go. They've been the chief sponsor of terrorism throughout the Middle East, and their influence goes far and wide. Their influence in Venezuela is unbelievable to me, that there could be a potential for a drone factory, an Iranian drone factory, right in our own backyard. But just look at what they've done to sponsor Hamas, Hezbollah, all of the unrest throughout the Middle East, whether that's in Syria or in Iraq. They are the principal sponsor. They've attacked Saudi Arabia. Their proxies in Yemen have been disrupting international shipping, firing on U.S. warships. It's high time for this to stop. In other news, Secretary of State Marco Rubio told Congress he does not anticipate more military action in Venezuela. Wendy Griffith has that story and more from the CBN Newsroom. Wendy?
Gordon, in testimony to Congress Wednesday, Secretary Rubio said the administration is making good and decent progress with the interim government. He also said transforming the South American nation after 12 years of dictatorship, quote, won't be easy. Asked if the administration would use military force to compel cooperation from Venezuela's new government, Rubio had this reply.
I can tell you right now with full certainty, we are not postured to, nor do we intend or expect to have to take any military action in Venezuela at any time. That said, if an Iranian drone factory pops up and threatens our forces in the region, the president retains the option to eliminate that threat.
The government of Nicolas Maduro allowed Iran and its proxies to operate in Venezuela, giving them influence in other parts of South America. Well, Maduro's Venezuela courted other U.S. adversaries, including China. The raid removing him did major damage to one of Beijing's most important partnerships in Latin America. It may also have placed Taiwan in grave danger. Dale Hurd explains why.
These are Chinese government special forces conducting a so-called decapitation drill, only days after U.S. forces arrested Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro. It was Beijing's message to Washington that it can do the same thing against Taiwan. The successful U.S. raid on Venezuela has struck a major blow to China's strategy in Latin America, according to China expert Gordon Chang.
Well, China has used Venezuela as its beachhead, and it's a very important country for China. China used Venezuela not only as, a place to get cheap oil, but it also was a place very much for military penetration.
Venezuela had become the largest purchaser of Chinese military equipment in Latin America, some of which failed miserably during the U.S. raid. According to Latin American analyst Dr. Evan Ellis, the event will not remove Chinese influence in Venezuela overnight. It's too vast.
It's also in the mineral sector, working with Corporación Venezolana de Guyana, CBG. It's also deeply embedded in the telecommunications sector, in the retail sector, and in other places.
China has infrastructure projects all over Latin America, from ports to rail, factories, mines, and hydroelectric plants. However, in Venezuela, it was building infrastructure that could be used for war against the United States.
If we ever went to war with the PRC in the Indo-Pacific, their ability to use access to Western Hemisphere space to target U.S. satellites and indeed perhaps communicate with some of their own offensive vehicles, they have something called a fractional orbital bombardment system, would be very important.
To kill orbiting U.S. satellites.
And the loss of Maduro is only the latest in a series of setbacks for Chinese leader Xi Jinping.
There are reports Xi is purging the military after what some say was a coup attempt. Chang says the nation remains mired in a social and economic malaise, with young people refusing to have children. The birth rate last year hit the lowest level since the Communist Revolution in 1949.
And that's why they call this the garbage time in history, and why people in China are extremely pessimistic about the direction of their country.
Under pressure from Trump, some Latin American nations may be cooling toward China. However, Victor Gao, considered an unofficial spokesman for the Chinese government, says China has no intention of leaving Latin America, telling Singapore TV channel CNA.
President Trump and the U.S. government's pretense that they can resurrect the Monroe Doctrine or insert the Down-Road Doctrine to Latin America is completely false. China will never allow that to happen. If they want to have war, they will get war.
And in a recent war game, Chinese forces fought a simulated battle in Latin America. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Thanks, Dale. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell said the U.S. economic outlook has clearly improved since December. Yesterday, he cited a growing economy and stabilizing job market in the Fed's decision to keep interest rates the same. He noted that while inflation has dropped, it's still higher than desired.
The economy is growing at a solid pace. The unemployment rate has been broadly stable, and inflation remains somewhat elevated. Inflation has eased significantly from its highs in mid-2022, but remains somewhat elevated relative to our 2% longer-run goal.
The decision to keep rates steady comes after 3 rate cuts in a row last year. President Trump has been calling on the Fed to keep lowering rates to boost the economy. Chairman Powell claims the Justice Department investigation into his oversight of federal construction projects is politically motivated. Well, the Trump administration announced it's giving nest eggs to help the next generation. The president is calling it one of the most transformative policy innovations of all time. Lori Johnson explains.
Beginning this 4th of July, the U.S. Treasury will deposit $1,000 into stock market investment accounts run by private firms for babies born during this Trump term. The money will be available for withdrawal as early as the child's 18th birthday for things like college, starting a business, or buying a house. They're called Trump accounts.
For the first time ever, we're going to give every newborn American child a financial stake in the future, head start at life, and a fair shot at the American dream.
Parents, churches, and friends can contribute up to $5,000 each year.
The typical account will grow to $100,000, $200,000, and can even grow up to past $300,000 per child.
Philanthropists and celebrities are generously giving, like rapper Nicki Minaj, who's donating hundreds of thousands to the children of her fans.
I am probably the president's #1 fan. He has a lot of force behind him, and God is protecting him. Amen.
A growing list of companies announced they will match the federal contribution for their employees' children, including Charlie Kirk's nonprofit Turning Point USA. His widow, Erica, posting on X, Charlie spoke so often about the importance of young families and having children. Also, Visa says it will allow cardholders to direct credit card rewards into Trump accounts. Parents can open them when filing their taxes. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said 600,000 families have already signed up. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
This really is something. Gordon, what do you think?
I think it's an idea of trying to increase the birth rate in America. You look at Europe and some of the things that they've done in order to encourage childbearing. They have special tax incentives, they have special awards to families, and here Trump coming in and saying, well, us too, let's create these accounts that will grow over time and hopefully pay for college. I think the bigger issue and the one affecting most families is just the sheer cost of having children, the sheer cost of affording a home for them. All of those things, when you start adding up diapers and strollers and car seats and child care, all of those things come into the decision, will we have children? The latest stats are that the population of America is not growing at that 2%, 2 children per family necessary just to keep the population stable. So if we're down around 0.5 children per married couple, then we're not replacing ourselves. That's a decline for the nation. And so hopefully this will start a whole new Trump baby boom, and we'll see.